So yeah, we had a meeting a couple months ago, and it went pretty well. And we wanted to follow up with another virtual meeting. Usually, we only have 2 or 3 a year. It's a fairly smaller user group meeting. We're just getting ramping up still, but we had this opportunity to have Drift here and to participate, to share some insights with us. So we wanted to take advantage of that. So I thought what we'd have for today's agenda is really is after we do our introductions, we'll have Kate Adams from Drift. We'll be talking about database decay and how to fight back against that. And then also just at the end, I want to just touch on some new things from Adobe around your credentials, your MCE badges and things like that. Some things are changing there. We also had a leaders meeting around the new Marketo interface. There's some changes happening to that. And then also just any feedback and ideas for future presentations. So that is primarily it. And Carolyn, you want to take over from here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're super excited to have Kate with us. As you can see on the screen, Kate is the Vice President of Marketing at Drift. She's been in the tech marketing world for over 15 years and with lots of different businesses, different stages and industries. Before she was with Drift, she led demand gen and marketing ops at SmartBear, where she ran a demand gen for a portfolio of over products. She's also led marketing and product for a number of early stage startups, ranging in size and industry, from education, employee engagement, healthcare, etc. And she's passionate about bringing businesses to life and helping customers create amazing customer experiences across the entire life cycle. So we're super excited to have her and learn a little bit more about Drift and how all of us in the Marketo ecosystem can benefit.
Yeah, so Kate, I don't think I have to make you presenter. I think I can just stop and you should be able to pick up.
Great, I'm doing that right now.
Okay.
All right, let's see if I got that right. Can you guys see a presentation that says how to fight back against database decay?
Yeah. Okay.
Fantastic. And I'm hoping what you will now see is it go into full screen mode. Just give it 1 second. And since we're such an intimate group here today, want to make this as conversational as possible. So feel free to jump in and ask questions as we go along. So Caroline, thanks so much for the intro. Very kind of you on that front. I'm from Drift. So Drift is a revenue acceleration platform. We, 2 weeks ago, we announced that we were a revenue acceleration platform. Before that, you might have known us as a conversational marketing platform. And our whole hypothesis at Drift is it's all about that B2B marketing traditionally has all been built for later, and it needs to be built for now, especially as more and more people have had such an astronomical burst of digital thrown at them here over the last 6 months or so. So that'll be pretty much the only pitch of Drift. Our whole objective here is just provide value. And so if you want to learn more about Drift, we're happy to talk about it offline, but this is really about how helping you all as professionals fight database decay. And so one of the things here is, I just kind of mentioned it, the last 5 months have accelerated digital transformation by 6 years. And that's not just my Kate Adams assessment. That's actually from a Twilio report that they did on the state of digital around COVID-19, where they surveyed about 2,500 enterprise companies and marketing practitioners and asked them about what their assessment was, and their own self-identified assessment is that it has been accelerated. How quickly they have moved to digital over the last 5 months was what traditionally would have been accomplished in 6 years, which is just mind-boggling to me. I've seen stats and reports from Forrester and Gartner that are stating this at 10 years, but either way you look at it, 6 years or 10 years, I mean, it's just unbelievable what has been accomplished here. You know, not only what has been accomplished just from just a sheer accomplishment perspective, but what's been accomplished as we've all been living through a pandemic as well, and working from places we never envisioned ourselves to be working from 6 months ago, but also really dealing with the emotional, the social impact of everything that we've all been through as a world right now. And so we have some really interesting data here where we've been looking at email replies and database hygiene over these last few months here. And so really what we have here is our own tool is able to get back replies and parse them and understand, are we getting an out of office reply? Are we getting are we getting a hard bounce reply and this person's no longer at the company? And so we wanted to look at that volume across our entire database of customers and understand how has that changed over the last 5 months, because as I'm sure all of you are well aware of, right? Our unemployment rate in this country is higher than we've ever seen it before. Unemployment around the world is higher than we've ever seen it before. And so really one of the things that we wanted to study and understand here is like, interesting, how does our email reply rate correlate to our uninsured rate? And so this unemployed rate. And so here's where you can see this black line is the unemployment rate. And here's where you can see there's a direct correlation with all of the information that we're getting back, which just shows that from March 2020, we saw actually an 18.74% increase in bounces, changed job, and left company replies, which is absolutely astounding to me. You can see here that the data tends to normalize out, and that's really just, it's not because I think that's getting any less, it's just that there was such a hard peak here, hard peak of that data here that now it's still higher than it was pre-pandemic. And so we continue to see this data correlate. And I'm a big data geek, a little oversharing there, but I'm a big data geek. I found this to be super, super interesting. And so really, if you look at that, I think that there's no time like the present to really check up on the health of your database, right? If you've been thinking about, and I've been saying this to a lot of marketers, a lot of sales folks as well, because people keep asking, like, what are the things you're doing right now? How are you pivoting your marketing strategy? What are you doing? And I keep saying, like, we have dusted off all of the ideas that we kicked down the can and said, oh, we'll come back to that later. And if one of those things on your list is worrying about the health of your database, I'm telling you right now, I think there's no time like the present to really dig in here and understand why. And let's talk about why, right? Because bad data is eroding your revenue and the ROI that you're getting from systems like Marketo. And so a few stats here from a number of different trusted sources, but 2/3 of a sales rep's day is actually spent in non-selling activities, such as like data entry or prospect research. That's straight out of Gartner. And so why does that matter? Well, because if your database is full of bad or archived data or data that's not real, guess what? Like all of that time that those sales reps are trying to reach out to those folks, or even sales development reps are trying to reach out to those folks, it's just all for naught, right? It's all for nothing because they're unable to they're doing something that they're trying to reach out to people that are just not, they're never ever going to get a reply from. And so they're already spending 2/3 of their time on non-revenue generating activities. And so much of that is already, you can't risk it then to when they are doing those revenue generating activities to do it around bad data, right? From CSO Insights, 82% of sales executives feel their sales reps are challenged by the time it takes to research prospects. And so I'll tell you that if they see this as one of their biggest challenges, that it's going to be very clear to me that that rep is going to use every single contact in the database that they already have so they don't have to go research net new. And again, if those contacts are out of date or inaccurate, that's going to be a big issue. 30% of the data in your database decays every year. That's from our friends at ZoomInfo. ZoomInfo is a great partner. We're a customer of theirs, and they have more insight into the data world than I think just about any other company at this point. And that's just an astounding rate that 30% of your database is actually decaying every single year, right? And Eloqua is citing that the cost of one bad record in your marketing automation platform or your CRM is actually $11. And they get to that cost by assessing sales rep productivity time, as well as the time that marketers are using to craft emails that are never going to land somewhere, as well as the impact that it has on your send score. If you are getting a number of high bounce rate and your deliverability isn't good. And then finally, 66% is actually the increase in revenue organizations could see as a result of strong data quality standards. And why is that? Well, just for all of the reasons we just talked about. If you have great data, then you know that all of the activity you're doing there before, either by your sales reps or by marketing, is just more likely to get a response because the data is actually true and real. And I think nobody knows it better than this group, right? We've been talking to a lot of folks in Marketo user groups, a lot of mugs, and you guys know this first and foremost, for sure.
The $11 that Alec was citing there, is that like an annual cost, and what do they attribute that cost from? Just
what do they attribute it to? It's the marketing time and as well as the sales time that's spent on that. That annual cost is a good one. I'll have to go back actually. My apologies, and look at it if that's annual or monthly. I believe it's an annual cost.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions on any of the stuff we just talked about, or I just mentioned? Well, I'll keep going. So right here, this is the real meat of it, and I mentioned before our whole hypothesis about giving and helping and providing value to you. So I certainly hope that these tips provide value to you. But we've got 6 steps for a healthier database, and I'll go through each one of these, right? The first one, pretty straightforward, right? You need to get your emails into the inbox. Sending bad contacts, it's going to impact your ability to send the good ones, right? Most email service providers are going to penalize you, penalize your sender reputation, and it's going to impact your ability to send out campaigns if your bounce rate is over 5%. So our best practice is monitor for email deliverability rates below 97. To me, 97% is like, hey, my hair's on fire. We have to immediately address this. I prefer to typically strive around the 99% range, but definitely an alarm should go off for you if you're below 97%. Tip number 2. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing.
Oh, good. Great. Sorry, I can't see you because I'm now in presentation mode, so I can't see Blue Jeans, which is also in my browser window. So please don't hesitate to jump in. Number 2, avoid spam flags with personalizations, right? Humans, they don't use all caps. That's definitely a spam trigger word, right? Act now, buy direct, instant access, right? Humans don't communicate in HTML. This says graphics, but in HTML, right? One of the things, this is highly controversial, so I know I'm about to drop a hot take on you all, but at Drift, we actually send 0 HTML-based emails. We don't send a single one. None of them have HTML tags in them. We right? Text-based only email. We've done testing on it. For us and for our audience, it works incredibly well. And so that's super important. Humans don't flag personalized emails as spam. I think when I say personalization here, I don't mean like throwing the name token in and hoping for the best, right? I certainly get my share of those as well, where I know that they've just dropped my name token in using their marketing automation system. I'm analyzing your email. So when we look at segmentation, we look at things like location, industry, company size, what their role is, what their function is. Something that's not in here is behavior, right? So graphic and behavioral personal action, right? And some of those things. And so when I say humans don't flag personalized emails as spam, that's what I really mean. Like, does it really feel genuinely that you really personalized this for me? Did you go above and beyond dropping a simple token into your message?
So I have a
Tip number
question.
2.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, actually, I think that's interesting. So to your point, do you think it potentially hinders you to just do the bare minimum, just to be like, Kate, like new offer for you or something? Or, I mean, if we said like, hey, you're in, Boston or whatever. So if it was like Boston, healthcare companies or something, that would be a better use of personalization than just throwing in like, lead first name token, like you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying, and what I'm asserting here is that just saying like Kate and having this Kate comma, right, and having this and sending the same exact message out to your entire database, it's not gonna do you well. Like I believe that I am advising my team right now that we need to segment more than ever, because the other chart that we don't have in here, but the other thing that's happened over the last 5 months is that email volume has gone up significantly. And why? Well, because as marketers, our channels just got cut by at least 33%, right? There's no more trade shows. There's no more field marketing events. There's no more like on-site visits. Like all of those things just got dramatically cut. And so we went as marketers, and what do? We went and invested in the channels that we know are tried and true. And no matter how many times some marketing influencer wants to assert it, like email's not dead, it's never been dead, it's here to stay. And email volume's gone up significantly over these last 5 months. So one of the ways that now more than ever, one of the things that we all have to do is figure out a way to stick out. And I think that personalization component is super important.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. That's a good note.
That makes sense. Cool.
Yep.
Thanks for the question. Number 3, leverage automation where you possibly can, right? And so, again, this is our tool, but you should do this any way that you want. I'm not here to sell you. But the action I want you to think about is, how do you use technology to find outdated contacts and update or purge them from your database? So whatever way you go do that, I can't encourage you to do it enough. You got to get rid of the stuff that's just costing you. One, it's costing you room. It's actually a cost in your marketing automation platform because it's costing you room in that space. And then 2, it's costing you in terms of what I had just mentioned, which is your deliverability rate, right? And if you get caught in those spam filters, man, that's going to be even more of a bummer. You just dig your hole deeper and deeper as you go along. And so here you can see like total replies we've gotten is 13,000 replies. We can see that like 2,000 of those replies, a little over 2,000 of those replies are actually human replies, like as in actual humans getting to talk to us. I don't know how everybody does this today. In a past life, I used to have my SDR team man the like do not reply email address that we were sending from. And I knew that like it was not the sexiest job in the universe to have to sort through all of that auto reply noise and all of that to make sure that there was not like the CEO of Dell asking for a $5 billion RFP submission, right? But you never knew, because there were a share of deals that fell into that. So being able to surface those replies and making sure that you are monitoring that is super important. And then you can see from those 13,000, we're actually able to source 1,193 new contacts, and we were able to update 5,141. And when I say update, we're able to either say this person is no longer available or this person is no longer at the company, and we're able to eliminate that record altogether from the database. Does this make sense to everybody?
Yeah, it's good.
Great. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I would say it makes sense. I think there's just a lag.
Sorry. Number 4, use filters to prioritize unknowns, right? So 75% of marketers are looking to better target specific segments. So, and why are they looking to target that? For the same reason I just talked about for personalization, because we're getting into the law of diminishing returns here in terms of the amount of email that you can send before you actually stop helping yourself and start hurting yourself, right? So prioritize unknowns by focusing on the segments that have shown intent to buy and are in the right stage of the buying cycle. So I mentioned this a little bit before in terms of firmographic and demographic and past behavioral data. This is definitely an emphasis on that behavioral data. Like how are you really sure that somebody has started showing buying signals? An example of that was, have they visited your pricing page if you have it? Have they had a meeting with one of your sales team members? Are they visiting your features and functionality pages? Are they visiting your competitive pages, right? You can get so much intel there and really be able to dig deep in terms of understanding where somebody sits in your funnel, right? So our action there is like really connecting the multiple data sources to enrich high priority segments first, so that I can really understand and know, and I'll get into this in the next one, where somebody is in the funnel and what those expanded funnel stages are. Number 5, look for proof of life. So this goes back to that Gartner 2/3 stat of sales reps don't spend their time in revenue generating activities. But like 50% of prospecting is actually completely unproductive, and 90% of calls that sales teams make go unanswered. I am fortunate enough to manage the SDR team here at Drift, right? And whenever I talk to our individual SDRs or I'm interviewing for SDRs, I always tell them this game is all about the 99 swings you're going to take before you hit the home run, right? And do you have the grit and wherewithal to swing 99 times so that you can hit that home run or that grand slam, right? And so nothing is harder there. But the biggest thing is like, there's 2 actions I want you to think about, which is weeding out inactive people from your database, right? So I've spent some time talking about bad records and people who are just no longer at companies, but there's also that point of like, when is the last time that you've seen somebody take an action, either on your website or attend a webinar or do any of those things? Because like just holding on for the sake of hope that somebody who you acquired 18 months ago is gonna like all of a sudden wake up today and say, oh man, Kate, I can't wait to dig into this new ebook you've sent me. Like, it's not good enough, right? And so I think that, and every business is different, you're gonna have to look at your data and analytics around velocity of deals and time from lead to opportunity creation in order to do this really well. But I think it's really important that you do draw a line in the sand somewhere, that you say like, hey, look, if you haven't engaged with us in 12 months, I'm going to move you into this different segment. Maybe once a quarter, I send you like a Hail Mary, maybe you'd be interested. But otherwise, like, I'm going to move you into this inactive bucket. I'm not going to focus. I'm not going to spend my time there. And then you flip that coin, right, and you get this other action, which is really doubling down on the people who are engaging with you. So those people that are showing you that they're interested, those people that are opening the newsletter every week, the people that are digging deep into or digging deep into the pricing page or visiting your website or reading your blog or consuming your content, like double down on those people and really start to think about, okay, where are these people in this funnel, right? And so this is what I was talking about when I really am breaking down that funnel. I think there's a whole other talk I give on acronyms and why I think we as marketers have just really acronymized, if you can use that, if you'll let me use that as a verb here for just a minute. We've acronymized everything, right? We've got MQLs, SQLs, SQOs, MAPs, CRMs, TOFUs, MOFUs, BOFUs, right? And part of that is we've lost the sense that like these are people. They're not just acronyms. They're not acronyms that live in acronyms. And so one of the things I work really hard with my team about is like thinking about it from a people perspective. So these are the stages that we have within that make up TOFU, right? Which is like, if I'm engaging, like I'm just at that first level of awareness, right? I know who you are as a brand. I may or may not know what space you operate in. From there, I'm going to start to like educate myself about, you know, some of the challenges that your brand might be talking about, right? Some of the problems that you might be talking about, some of the achievements that you've been able to help your customers solve. And once I understand that I have a problem, then I can start to go think about how can I research how I can help myself solve that problem, right? Then I can start to think about, oh, interesting, the problem that these folks help me solve is engaging with buyers in real time. Well, let's think about like there's probably a number of different ways that I can solve that problem. I can solve it with technology, I could solve it with people, I could solve it with processes, and then I'm going to start to research and move into this yellow square here. And from there, once I understand all the ways to go solve my problem, how do I evaluate all of those ways, right? The people, okay, I understand what it's going to cost for me to bring on 2 FTEs and the full-on cost of those. Okay, the technology, here's where they all net out pricing and features and functionality wise and relationship wise. And then I can start to get into justification, right? That's where I move into this green box here, which is where I start to think about, okay, I know this is the cost. How do I justify the cost? How do I go to my manager and say, hey, look, I need you to give me $25,000 because this is what we can see back. If you give me 25, I'm going to bring back 75, or I'm going to bring back, 125. Great. Like that's really how we break apart those phases. That was a little aside just because every time I see this graphic, I love it even more. But really go beyond just standard firmographics like your company size and location and start to use deeper intelligence, right? Deeper intelligence about what somebody's behavior is telling you about where these people are. And I also don't want to come across as naive. We all know this funnel process is not linear. It's entirely possible that I can be engaged and move straight into research and then come back and go back into educate and then come back down and look like an evaluate. But I think that's really there's tons of golden nuggets in there. And so whether you start to go and configure AI and have an AI-driven behavioral model or something, or you build your own behavior-driven model, I think the action here is really leveraging that behavior intent data, right? A lot of this data you can get from third-party sources, not even just your own website and what's happening with your own content, right? And so leverage that data in your database to really target your email programs even better. And so ongoing database maintenance, it's critical because email marketing databases, they're naturally degrading about 2% every month. And that's about 2.5%, which is how ZoomInfo gets to that 30% annually on that stat. And so think about that. One of the things that we are constantly thinking about in our business, and I know every SaaS business is, and a lot of technology companies are, is retention, right? It's great that you can put things into the top of that funnel, but are you holding on to them? And are you able to, how are you holding on to them? And how are things falling at the bottom, right? And then lastly, we put together this high performance email marketing toolkit where we've got 15 high converting email templates, like a quintessential guide to everything you need to know about email marketing, virtual courses with experts from Litmus, Digitas, and of course us. And then our email marketing pipeline calculator, and as well as the conversational email templates has been a hot one, especially as we created that right maybe 2 months into when the pandemic hit. It's about having empathy without using that golden term of like, I hope you're safe and healthy in these tumultuous times, which I know everybody's using, but a little bit different there. So guys, thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thanks, Kate. That's been really good. One thing I was just thinking about is so there's always sort of, well, I've kind of deal with, I've kind of worked in different models, and one thing is that some companies are all about kind of the lead generation, getting the new leads, getting on the top of the funnel, getting, working that and getting people into the pipeline. And then others sort of like, oh, we already know our customers, we've known them for decades, and we just want to just continually serve them and get, and work with them. But I've seen sort of poor email performance in both of those models. One is like you got somebody's Yahoo account or something that they use for their spam account inbox, and other times you get somebody that's signed up and they're engaged for a little while, but then they've sort of disconnected. Kind of, how do you like not pull the trigger too fast on a lead that maybe just kind of in that dormant, like you were saying, they're jumping around your funnel a little bit, and then how do you kind of know those people that you just got as a new lead, but you don't want to pursue them too hard and drive them away? Is there any insights there you could share?
Yeah, I love that. Blaine, I wish that there was like one golden answer for this. There isn't. And I'm a big, like I said, I'm a big data dork. So I can tell you my approach to one of the first questions you asked, which is like, how do you know when to draw the line? I always go back to the analysis, and I work with my own MOPS team to understand like what's the average time between when we acquire somebody to when they will never do anything again. So I kind of flip it on its head, which is like you can look at lead velocity for your business and understand like, oh, it's around 60 days between when we acquire somebody and then they like do the next, or when they book a meeting. I'm flipping that on its head and saying, when we acquire somebody and then they go dead, what's the time between when we acquired them and when they did the last thing, right? They took that last behavior, and I take the mean, not the average of all those things, because you can have like a 1,000 days in there and the mean would be 30 and it's going to throw you way off, right? I take the mean of that and say, okay, that's going to be our golden line, right? Of where once you hit that, whatever it is, that 89-day mark, I'm going to move you into this like dormant list that really I'm one thing that like, that is going to be my highest impact, highest value offer. That's how I would look at that first one. And then Blaine, sorry, what was the second part of your question? Can you remind me of that one?
Well, it had to do with, the people that have been in your database a while, and you don't want to flush them, but they may be just sort of dormant for a while because they've been a customer for a couple things, but maybe they're an upsell opportunity down the road, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I love that. So now we're talking about customers, which is like, I could have a whole other customer data conversation, and we're working on a project on that on ourselves right now. But I think that golden rule still applies. I think it can apply to customers. It just may be the data set is different. And so I'd go look at the customer cohort and address that a little bit differently, which is like, okay, what's the average time of engagement within the customer base? And then, and again, I think one of the problems that when I say these things that marketers and marketing operations folks tend to hear is like, yeah, she's crazy. She's just telling me like I should reduce my database by 75%. I'm not saying throw them in the trash. What I am saying is put them off to the side and don't put them in your normal email cadences or normal email campaigns that you're doing for people who are active. And what I'm telling you is like you are going to see your metrics skyrocket, and you're going to see good things happening to your send reputation. That you otherwise wouldn't. And sometimes it scares people because people are just like, no, I have to send 250,000 emails every time. It's like, okay, great. But that only 15,000 of those people are actually really ever going to even open. Like, so like I know it might stroke your ego to make you feel better. It's about sending the 150K, but like, it's not helping you otherwise.
I think we had one question come through the chat from Julie, and it's, can you share a few best practices of integrating Drift with Marketo?
Yeah, I certainly can, but I can also do even better because I am certainly not the MOPS expert at this, but we did an entire webinar with our customer Snowflake, and he talked about how they integrate with Marketo, and we are also doing business office hours with our own ops team to talk through exactly this, where you can ask them like direct questions on exactly how to do this. We actually also have engineers that are committed to helping customers just like you get those integrations set up, because I know sometimes it can be challenging. But how we look at it, so I'm probably one of 4 marketers on the entire planet that has, or we're one of 4 marketing departments on the entire planet that doesn't have a single form on my website. We don't have a form. I take it back. We only have one form, and that's to sign up for Insider. That will soon change, but we use Drift for every single other thing. And so our integration from Drift to Marketo is like everything flows from Drift directly into Marketo, and then from there moves into Salesforce. But Julie, as you can probably see, I haven't spent enough time in Marketo and the back ends of the Marketo in terms of integrating that. But awesome, Caitlin dropped in the live office hours with our sales ops team. And Caitlin, I don't know if you dropped it in, but if you can, I'm happy to find that Snowflake webinar for Julie too, because I think that's super important as well. It's in Insider, Caitlin. If you just look up Snowflake, I think you should find it. Julie, I hope that was helpful. I'm sorry, I'm not like, yeah, connect this object to this object in this campaign. Sorry.
So Ashley asked a question too. I don't know if you touched on that. You can share what's your most memorable campaign or tactic you've used to bring those inactive people back from the dead?
Oh yeah, Ashley, that's a great question. A good wake from the dead for us in April was in March. We had I had a big old pity party because on March 16th, like the rest of us, or maybe it was like March 8th, I think, all my trade shows got canceled like literally within a 12-hour period. It was like one bullet after the other of like canceled. And I had 6 figures of pipeline associated to those. And so I rode the train back home, back when you could ride the train in those days, and sulked and had a pity party for myself. And then we came up with the idea to have to do a virtual event. And we did it in 6 weeks. So it was from there until April, like mid-April, where we got it up and running. We called it Rev Growth, and it's now a big quarterly event for us. And I shot off an email to about 20 of our partners. And when I say partners, I just mean other vendors in the marketing and tech sales space. And knew like, hey, look, if I got all these emails, all of them just got all those emails, and everybody's having a pity party. So shot off a quick email being like, hey, look, one of the biggest things for us is like, and I tried to communicate it here, was like, we're all about providing value. Our whole thesis is like give, and the get will come. And that's all you have to worry about. And so we thought about like, hey, we're really bummed out because we're going to miss a bunch of pipeline. But you know what else is happening to the marketing and sales folks like yourselves? Like, these people had all this money invested in their professional development, and they're not going to get it this year. And so like, how do we provide value to them? And so we did this 2-day long Rev Growth virtual event, and I emailed 31 partners, and we got 23 responses back saying they were in, no questions asked. And so we put together this 2-day event. And so promoting that to the Wake the Dead, it ended up being the biggest event we've ever had ever. And we are, I don't know if you're familiar with the Drift brand, but we're not afraid of big events. We have a hypergrowth in-person conference that we usually do. We did it twice. We're going to do it 3 times this year. Or we did it 3 times last year. We're going to do it twice this year. Obviously, we've canceled that, but like that, big events are our thing. We love them, and so to do the biggest one ever and get over 8,000 people to register for us was huge. And so that was a really good Wake the Dead offer because it was really, really timely. Another one that we did, one of the best campaigns. I don't even know about Wake the Dead, but one of the best campaigns that comes to mind was we did this hyper personalized postcard. So our whole thing is like the concept of this postcard is like, look, you're not using. We had a picture of this like old IBM, like the old Mac, like the first Mac that ever got released, the one that Woz and Jobs built in the garage, right? And then we had a picture of a rotary phone, and we said, hey, look, if you're not using these 2 things, I don't understand why you're still using only this. And we had it dynamically printed, so it inserted an image of the person's form on their website, their real form, and we sent that out, and it has been by far and away the best campaign over the last 19 months that I've been at Drift, performance-wise. And we did do that. It was a segment of those people were Wake the Dead people. We also do that as like it's our immediate fire once you become a lead within our database, and it's like super, super personalized. It's our immediate fire that goes out minutes after you become a lead and does that via email, and it just kills it. I've never been able to beat it. So those are a couple golden nuggets.
Thanks. That's great. Are there
Thanks,
any other
Ashley.
questions?
I just had a quick question, and I say quick, and now I'm going to talk for a minute. But so I work at an agency, so we obviously have lots of different clients and different industries and different phases of marketing. But something that I've noticed, and so like I obviously work in Marketo, but there are some clients who use HubSpot. So I know like HubSpot has this thing, and it's literally called like disengaged or non-engaged contacts. You can like check a box or whatever, and it just like takes all these people like automatically out of like your email sends or like send to only engaged contacts. And I'm kind of wondering like for Marketo, there's no like kind of silver bullet, there's no box, and it'll just send to not send to disengaged contacts. So when we've been trying to advise clients, is there, and I'm sure there's not like one answer that or one size that fits all, but is there, like if they, I've used in the past, like, haven't filled out a form, haven't visited the website, haven't, had any sales that, haven't had an activity logged in Salesforce, using different filters to kind of create like my own, disengaged contacts list. But is there anything, and like I said, it doesn't have to be like a one size fits all, but is there anything that you've used that or you've noticed people using that have been like a good way to kind of gauge when the contact, when do you mark a contact as disengaged, or what are maybe factors or filters that influence someone being not engaged versus like, okay, we should keep emailing them and keep trying?
Yeah, Carolyn, that is Caroline or Carolyn?
Caroline, but I go by both, so whatever you say.
Carolyn, it's a great question. I wish there was like one golden like field that everybody just could pick off of, but I think you're doing it right. Like, I think that like, what the biggest thing is, I mentioned I'm a data geek. The biggest thing that I tell everybody is like, rev growth worked amazingly for me. And it was a virtual event. It doesn't mean that I'm saying like, Caroline, go post a virtual event and send it to your disengaged list and you're going to get the best response. Like, I think every audience, and you know this better than anybody, right? Because you're in the agency model. So you know that like the things that you do with one client don't work with the 3 other ones, but will work with 4 and 5. And it's because, and it's one of the reasons why I talk about the acronym, how the acronymization of everything has hurt us all, because then we just think about everything as genericized, and it's like, well, MQL at Acme is the same as an MQL at drift. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it's like actually wildly different. Like you have no idea because these people and these audiences are different. I market to marketers, like, right? Like if we mess up on our marketing team, man, wait until you hear it. Cause like marketers will call us out for doing cool stuff, but they will call us out on messing up all the live long day, right? And so that's really different from where I was before, where I was marketing to developers. And developers are another really interesting audience because, man, if there's something they hate, it's marketers and salespeople hate them. Like they don't want it. Like it's just like, give me value and get out of the way. You know what I mean? And like, if you're good, you'll win. And so like that's the biggest thing for that audience. And so I don't think that there is a single golden like field, like HubSpot field, right? And like the thing about the HubSpot disengage thing, like they've done that because like they are this high velocity, for the most part, been focused on the SMB business segment and business user, and that's what their clients go to them for. Lots of their clients aren't actually real marketers, right? I say that lots, not all. There's plenty of real marketers who are using HubSpot today, but like lots of them aren't. And so they want that like press a button and create a disengaged list. The more mature marketing practitioner, you got to do the work just like you just said, which is like make sure there's no visit, make sure there's no like Marketo campaign flags, make sure there's no intent data associated on that record, make sure there's no like incoming sales bound activity. The one thing I will say there is when you look at sales activity, just make sure it's not like outbound, right? Like, yeah, you'll have a silly SDR who's going after somebody who's in a database from 2015 and hasn't done anything since. So just make sure it's all inbound activity. But to me, I think you're doing the right things. It's not a one size fits all. You got to glue it all together, and that's where you draw the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, some of the things that I've done is like if I haven't contacted somebody in the database for 4, 5, 6 months, I'd actually try not to blast them again, but almost have them re-opt in or send them a message to say, hey, we have this information coming up if you're still interested or not. Because I think the thing is that people forget that they opted in. 6 months is probably about the longest, and then they're going to say, hey, I never signed up for this. So is that, have you found that to be effective, or is that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I am guilty of that as a marketer myself. I'm just like, how am I getting all these emails? Like, when did I sign up for this thing? And I'm sure I did it, right? But we all get hammered by it and have so many web experiences these days, like that there's like no way that, like, I'm sure I gave my email address to get that 10% off coupon for that one e-commerce transaction I wanted to do through that company 10 months ago, and they're still emailing me today, and I have no recollection of that thing I bought from that brand, right? Or maybe they rebranded and they did that. Blaine, I love that idea. Yes, 100%. I would just say, like, lots of folks will also tell you, just do the like final goodbye. That's how they do it. They'd say like, hey, look, we haven't heard from you in a long time. We're going to give this one last try. I've got this great, amazing ebook you're going to love. And if you like it, just consume it, and it will keep you in the list. And if not, then like I'll never email you again. The one thing I will say about that is like, hold true to yourself, hold true to your word. You then can never email them again if that's the promise you're going to make, right? Like, don't lie and don't say like, oh, just kidding. Like my CMO came over and we're short on pipeline this month, so she told me I got to email the entire database. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to work. But I just say I would hold true to that. If you're going to go the final goodbye route, like, it's goodbye and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Julie had one more question, which was like, where do you send the postcard now that it's post-COVID? I know, Julie, I'm so sad I am not able to send that postcard, because I'll tell you right now, if I had to, I'd stand at the printer and print those things out myself. But right now, we're actually in the midst, top secret, because we don't usually talk about things that aren't done yet. We're in the midst of building the digital version of it, which is we're building a custom landing page it's the exact same equation it'll be really interesting to see, again, data dork, but it'll be really interesting to see how it performs. So we're building a custom landing page. We're doing it with our ABM accounts, but we figured out a way that we could do it at scale for like the broader universe if it works. And so we're doing it with ABM right now. We've got 300 accounts that are in our ABM high touch list, and we're building custom landing pages with each and every one of them, and they'll go to it and they'll see their form render in the page when they get there. And so we'll see.
Excellent. I'll see if there's any other questions. We won't take any more of your time. I really do appreciate everything you've shared. It's been great.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the time.
It's been great.
Awesome, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you soon. Hopefully I get to Indianapolis and get back there sometime again.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
So,
Bye.
I had a couple things I wanted to share with people if they're still connected. Was just a couple things. One is that if you're Marketo certified and you have the badge, they're doing changings around the badging. If you're using the embedded link on any of your materials, it's automatically updating, but I just want to let you know if you're haven't heard about that, that's something to be aware of. There's also a new Marketo interface that's coming out, and it's sort of a go-between. It's not the Marketo Sky interface, but it has a new unified top navigation it's a lot like the other Adobe products. But and there's also a different left nav. It's a little bit different as well. So there is an option. I think we've asked some of the Marketo leader group to make a video or something available where it sort of does an introduction on that. If I can get my hands on that, do people want to see that as a kind of a special session or something like that? I don't know how familiar. There was a communication that went out. I was trying to find it. I thought it was in an email, but I think it actually popped up as one of those little tiles on the Marketo login screen or something like that at one point. But anyways, there's more about it. There's more coming around about that, and also just be watching the release notes. In fact, there was a mention about the new interface coming in the July release notes. So I assume the August release notes will have a little bit more about it, because they're going to roll this out by the end of the year. They're also going to address the Flash dashboards that since that's being basically deprecated from the browsers. So there's so that's basically another fix that's coming through this new interface. So so just send notes if you want to see more about that. And I think that's about it. I don't know if anybody has any topics for the next meeting, or some other things. What do you need? What kind of things are interesting, or what kind of needs do you have that we can kind of include in a future meeting? I think there's a couple other vendors that wanted to present some of the topics as well, but if you want, I don't know if you want to have more just working sessions, and I think when we can meet face to face again, I think people are anxious to kind of get together and maybe have a social gathering too. But right now, this is the world. So, any other thoughts as far as topics or things that you think that you need, that you would wish you knew or had more of?
Something that I was talking to a coworker about is this, and I'm probably not going to get the name right, but like Marketo, not AI, but it's like the intent data or something that they're rolling out. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like they announced it, and I don't know if it's going to be like a paid add-on or if it's going to be something that everyone has access to, or like kind of a combination of both. But it's some kind of Marketo, personalization, AI, intent data. I know I'm just throwing out like buzzwords now, but do you know what I'm talking about that they announced? Or
Yeah, I've seen a little bit about it, but I haven't. So some of it actually was presented in some of the summit sessions, and it is sort of a next generation of the AI. And but yeah, I don't have a lot more. I'll see if I can find more about it, or maybe we can find a champion or somebody that could join us and do.
yeah, I would, and I think to your point, they definitely like teased it at Summit. So I remember hearing about it there, but then like my coworker and I were going in and like for example, we were looking at like webinars, and there would be like a likelihood to attend like an event or something, and they would put like a percentage like person. But we don't have all of the information around it. But I did think that would be interesting, and eventually to be talking to clients about if that's an option. But that's one thing I'm interested in.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll see what I can dig up.
Yeah,
right.
I'll let you know too.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Any other thoughts or questions?
Is anything that you are working on now, or you are? I don't know.
I've been working on. Well, it seems like kind of get those challenges where it's like, oh yeah, hey, we want to have we want to bypass the unsubscribe page because we have an external preference center, and then and if you've ever tried to do that in Marketo, it's no fun, but because there's only one unsubscribe page and you have to use it. So that, then other integrations and stuff like that. Liz and I have been doing some kind of webinars and paid webinar stuff. So doing some stuff with PayPal and stuff as well, getting it integrated just for those things. It's been kind of interesting, but I think that's been a value add too, that standpoint. I think the other thing is, I think, well, so we did one larger kind of conference event with Liz, and so we used the GoToWebinar, kind of the multi-session GoToWebinar, so that people have one connect URL, and then that they use that for the whole, all the sessions over, at least throughout the day. That seemed to work all right, but then there's some pros and cons of that, and then so we have another one we're working on that's going to be all individual sessions, and so I think I think a little bit depends on the type of event that you're running to say which one may work better or not. But I don't know, Liz, what do you think about? You were on the back end of the GoToWebinar with the single event. Did that work all
yeah,
right?
So I think with all of it, I mean, there's pros and cons, right? With the single login, I think we saw a crazy amount of people that we needed to help get on. But then after, whatever the first session, we really didn't see any of that, which I think we're going to have a major ramp for the next one of people that are that's every single time, because they're going to have to be sent their join links, and I didn't get this, and, things like that. I think that's definitely the drawback of doing separate sessions. But then with all the one session, it was one giant recording. It was like open the whole time. There was no like green room in between where we could, speaker prep. It was all open. I did not like that at all. So I'm a little nervous about, getting people on every single session, because that was very stressful for that first one. And I did like the drop off and having to get people on after that first one, but I do think overall it'll be better. And as we
Right.
do it more and more, I think people will get used to it and start to understand. I do like one of the things that I was the most excited about was in the landing page you said, please add this website or the email address so that people, are kind of being prepped of you need to add this or you're not going to get your links. You're not going to get the distribution of things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's another thing we found is like when you have, especially when you have, people that are signing up that are, state and government type employees, they have a lot of spam filtering on those services, and so they'll register for something, but they'll never get their confirmation message. They won't get their links and things like that, and they don't know that they didn't get it either. And so until like you're trying to start the event, and people are calling in saying, "Hey, I don't have a link. Where's my link?" And you're like, and then you're like, "Well, do you have another email address?" And it's kind of crazy.
Right.
So there's been some things, I've been doing some work, just to make sure that deliverability is good for the sending account. But, I think that's still something else that, I don't know, it's kind of a hassle because if you don't, they get really upset, especially if they paid for an event and they can't get into it because they didn't get the login screen. But
Right.
yeah, I think that's something else that I think is really good to get better at, trying to figure out alternates or how to capture an alternate, email address or something like that for them, in the event that they aren't getting the primary one.
Mm-hmm.
So, what other kinds of programs you've been doing, Carolyn? Anything?
I mean, a lot of it's been like just, typical like email and nurture and data management, nothing like brand new from what we've been doing in the past. Nothing like groundbreaking, I should say, but obviously it depends on the client, depends on what they're looking for. But I think a lot of it's been like we created this external, I think it's launched, but like this Marketo audit template for that can be used for other, that can be downloaded from our website, but they can be like, things to cover and like your audits. I think a lot of times that, when we onboard clients, and this isn't a blanket statement, doesn't apply to everyone, but there are a lot of clients that I think like aren't using all the capabilities of Marketo and don't even realize what all the capabilities are, and or like, aren't just, maybe didn't have like, and I'm not really sliding Marketo at all, but maybe didn't have like the best onboarding process or understanding of everything that they could really be doing or what they're paying for. So I think a lot of the stuff we're helping with too is like clients first come on board or engage with us, showing them like what they're doing, what they could be doing, what's working well, what they should be doing. So a lot of it's just like you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So I think that's kind of been another just something that we've been focusing on and trying to, make more accessible to other people. They're not even are necessarily our clients, but if you Google like Marketo audit template or something, having this, 60-point breakdown of, by section of marketing activities, data management, design studio, all the different kind of sections, Marketo, and, what to be looking for too when you're using the software.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, I think this has been good. Caitlin, I really appreciate connecting us with Kate and helping set things up for us. And I did get your email, so I'll forward the connection details to the registered people. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with us, or how's it?
No, great getting to know you guys. Hopefully you guys found Kate's presentation helpful, and if you ever have questions about other like best practices, we actually are all Marketo users here at Drift too. So
Great.
it's always interesting for you to go to MUG events and like hear about the programs you guys are working on. Yeah, if you ever need anything, just feel free to reach out.
All right, sounds great.
Awesome.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up for today then, and if you have any other ideas or suggestions, I think since we're doing these virtually, probably try to set one up maybe another 6-8 weeks out. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, for sure.
That sounds good.
Great.
We're happy to, if you guys do have an event, we're happy just to send an email out to our Marketo users in Indy. If that's ever helpful. Just shoot me an
All
email.
right, yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, it's been hard for us to get the Marketo users, and so that anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We'll take all the help we can get.
Anytime.